Algerian-French relations have been witnessing escalating tensions for years, renewed every period as a result of historical, political, and economic accumulations. This crisis is not a recent one, but its roots extend back more than a century, since the French occupation of Algeria in 1830, and the subsequent colonial crimes, repressive policies, and plunder of wealth, all the way to the Algerian War of Independence, 1954 to 1962, which left deep wounds that have not yet healed. Despite the passage of more than 6 decades since Algeria's independence, the outstanding issues between the two countries continue to cloud relations and make them vulnerable to recurring crises. The roots of the Algerian-French crisis. 1. The colonial legacy and the historical file. The colonial memory remains one of the biggest obstacles to the normalization of relations between Algeria and France. During its occupation of Algeria, France committed heinous crimes, including mass massacres, such as the May 8, 1945 massacres that claimed the lives of tens of thousands of Algerians, nuclear tests in the Algerian desert during the 1960s, the environmental and health effects of which still exist today, the plundering of wealth and the transfer of Algerian property to France, including cultural and historical monuments that Algeria still demands to be returned, despite France's attempts to offer symbolic apologies. Algeria is demanding a clear and explicit official recognition of colonial crimes and fair compensation, which Paris has so far refused. Point 2. Immigrant and visa issues. The issue of the Algerian community in France is one of the sensitive files in bilateral relations. About 5 million people of Algerian origin live in France, and they sometimes suffer from restrictive policies regarding residence and naturalization. In addition, decisions to reduce visas for Algerians by the French authorities caused widespread anger in Algeria, which considered this unjustified political pressure. Point 3. Provocative French statements. Relations have witnessed increasing tensions due to some shocking statements by French officials, the most prominent of which were the statements of French President Emmanuel Macron in 2021, when he questioned the existence of an Algerian nation before French colonialism, considering that the Algerian regime lives on the legacy of colonialism, which led to the recall of the Algerian ambassador in Paris and the outbreak of a major diplomatic crisis. Point 4. French influence in Algeria and attempts to dominate France. Still has strong economic and cultural influence in Algeria, especially through French companies operating there, and the French language, which is still widely used in Algerian institutions. However, Algeria is trying to reduce this influence by promoting the Arabic language and opening up to new economic partners such as China, Russia, and Turkey, which worries Paris. Recurring political and diplomatic crises. 1. Visa crisis and diplomatic escalation. In 2021, France decided to reduce the number of visas granted to Algerians by 50%, citing Algeria's lack of cooperation in returning illegal immigrants. This decision angered the Algerian government, which considered it an insult to its citizens, leading to severe tension between the two countries. Point 2. Crisis of smuggling activists and opponents. On several occasions, France has received activists opposed to the Algerian regime, such as opposition journalist Amir Boukaz, known as Amir DZ, and members of the separatist MAK movement, which Algeria classifies as a terrorist organization. Algeria considered that Paris was interfering in its internal affairs and harboring those trying to destabilize the country. 3. The incident of smuggling activist Amira Bouraoui. One of the biggest recent crises was the incident of smuggling activist Amira Bouraoui from Tunisia to France using a French passport, despite the fact that she was banned from traveling by an Algerian court decision. Algeria considered this operation a violation of Algerian sovereignty, which led to the recall of the Algerian ambassador from Paris, and further complicated relations between the two countries. Economic and trade relations between the two countries. Despite the political crises, the economic interests between Algeria and France remain, as France is one of Algeria's most important trading partners. However, Algeria has begun to reduce its economic dependence on France and expand its relations with other countries such as China, Turkey, and Italy, especially in the energy and infrastructure sectors. Oil and gas. Algeria's strong card. The energy crisis in Europe after the Russian-Ukrainian war has increased the importance of Algerian gas, as France seeks to increase its imports of Algerian gas to compensate for the shortage, which gives Algeria a strong pressure card in negotiations with Paris. The future. Where are Algerian-French relations heading? Despite the recurring crises, the two countries realize the importance of maintaining a minimum level of relations, especially due to the economic overlap and the Algerian community in France. However, relations will continue to be affected by factors such as France's position on recognizing colonial crimes, which constitutes the cornerstone of historical reconciliation, the extent of Algeria's independence from French influence, especially in the economic and cultural fields. French policies towards Algerian immigrants and the Muslim community. Conclusion: the Algerian-French crisis is not just a passing dispute, but rather the result of a long history of colonialism and political conflicts. Despite attempts to calm things down from time to time, relations between the two countries still oscillate between cautious rapprochement and recurring tension, making the future of this relationship complex and unstable. Will Algeria and France be able to overcome these tensions, or will tension remain the most prominent feature of this relationship? Only the coming days will reveal that.